Well, let's get into the top stories of 2024. Now, just a caveat here for those listening. We are recording this on December 14th, 2024. So if anything dramatic happens the next few weeks and we leave it out here, that's because we don't own a DeLorean. So roll with us that we can't tell the future, but this is up to this point. And I figured out how to do a form, and maybe I'll post this so if people want to take it as far as rank your own stories, the top 10 stories. I took a list of, I don't know, 15, 20 stories or something, and put it out there and said, rank them, right? What's the number one story to the number 10 story? And so we all did that. I don't know. How did we do this before? What's the best way to do it? Do we start with number one? I guess so.
I'll tell you my number one that nobody else agreed with.
Yes, I can't wait for you to defend. First of all, let me just insert here. All of us, everybody who took the survey, except two, one person being named Matt, did not select that the church buys the Kirtland temple. To me, this was like earth-shattering, groundbreaking news. But Matt, why don't you kick us off here and defend your number one story of the year?
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Well, hello. Welcome, everyone, to our year-end episode of This Week in Mormons. The gang's all here, you guys. Everybody's here all together to go through what we think are this year's 2024's best stories. Everybody want to say hello? I'll let my brother Matt say hello first because he can't not talk for this long. It's very difficult for him.
It's been painful. 25 seconds of silence, but hello, everybody. I'm Matt. Thank you, Melissa, for hosting.
You're welcome.
I'm Tiffany, one half of the twin sisters.
And the international edition are also representing. I'm Georgia, and I'm joined by...
By Daniel Yanez. I'm joining here. Couldn't help it, even though I said goodbye last week. But yeah, here I am for a unsolicited encore.
Nice. And I'm here, Kurt Frankham, the somewhat regular person that jumps in here, and I'm the godfather of twin. That's what y'all call me, right? I'm
right.
We do. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So, but yeah, just like last year, we're all jumping on here to talk about 2024. And, pretty good year, right? Anybody?
If I'm being completely honest, 2024 was the best year of my entire life ever. So I just didn't want to make other people feel bad and make listeners feel bad. But yes, 2024... top for me. Couldn't have been better. Perfect year.
What happened in 2024?
I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that Matt worked very little and traveled very lot.
Yes, both of those are true. And also I became a grandfather in 2024. So those,
congratulations.
A combination of not working, traveling a lot, and having a grandchild makes it the best year ever.
Awesome.
I'm going to concur with Matt. I thought 2024, at least for me, was a great year. I had a lot of professional success this year. So that was kind of nice.
That's good to hear.
Congratulations.
And it was a good year to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right?
Yes, it was.
It was.
All kinds of good things happened.
All kinds of good things. And we're going to get into it. But of course, we want to give a shout out to our 2024 sponsor who, by all intents and purposes, everything seems online for Postum to be our 2025 sponsor as well. And hey, I'm willing to take on more sponsors out there. If there's other people who just want to take a piece of this twin pie, well, you reach out, contact at thisweekinmormons.com. And except you can't be competitor to Postum like Folgers, for instance.
Have you heard of these new water bottles called Owala or something where you can sip and chug at the same time? You know what I'm talking about?
Sip and chug. Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow,
simultaneously, or you can chug, or you can sip if you want to sip. Okay.
The top allows you to do both. So, if you want to sip, you can sip, or you can chug out of it. You guys. Anyhow, my son wants one for Christmas, and I happen to know this is a Utah-based company. So the fact that they don't sponsor us is kind of shameful. I think it's Owala. Jump on board. Join us.
There's a call out. Anybody else have a dream sponsor for Twin they want to call out?
Well, I do have to say, I'm really glad that Postum is going to continue to be our sponsor so I could continue to create new drinks.
That's right. That's right. And
And
Tiffany,
I
what are
challenge
the...
all you other hosts to create some new drinks because
Come on,
I've had a blast
step it up,
this year
Matt.
creating drinks.
I have an amazing Postum recipe. You take some hot water and you put some Postum in it, stir it up, and then you drink it. Like that's my I drink it every morning.
Blah, blah, blah.
The OG recipe. I love it. So
Yeah, that's what I do.
nice. Now, Tiffany, speaking of your recipes in 2024, you really went for it with some of these recipes. What are any like honorable mentions, or what are the top recipes? Maybe what was the worst recipe? What did you learn after being a connoisseur of Postum?
I think my favorite recipe was the one that I did in November with Ariane that was a very Christmassy way. I used the OG original Postum and I added some vanilla creamer to it. I added some non-sweet or some sugar-free sweetener into it. And then I added cinnamon, nutmeg, and some cloves. And it was a very Christmassy drink with just a dab of orange oil. I tried that. That was my favorite one that I did this year. The one that was probably, I was like, I needed to tweak this. Again, I was just throwing stuff together. I never tried any of these before we put them together and drank them on air. The one that we did in California where I was trying to do a chocolate orange thing, I added way too much orange flavoring and it was very bitter. So I would like to go back and redo the chocolate orange. But the Christmassy one, I have been jonesing for that one to make it again in this cold weather. And I think I will do that next Saturday because next Saturday is my giving machine shift and I will be out in the cold weather. So I think I will take my hot Postum Christmas beverage with me to go do my giving machine shift.
Dang! All right, this is a call out to June, the owner of Postum. Tiffany needs a mug or what do you call it?
Some
a tumbler
merchandise
of some type.
Yeah.
That she can hold by the giving machine that has Postum on it. So
Exactly.
very cool. Yeah. Awesome. And next year at this time, Tiffany, you'll probably be promoting your Postum cookbook that will be
Actually, seriously, at the rate I'm going, I really need to write these down because the problem is on the day I record, I'm like, oh, what can I put together? What sounds good?
Yeah.
And then I just start like grabbing random stuff and throwing it in Postum.
Nice. Nice. Very cool.
You should try Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper and Postum.
I should. We tried, I can't remember. I think it was when I was recording with Robert Mortensen this year. We hopped on the Dr. Pepper trend where you add the pickles to it. And we tried that. And that was a very, I also made him try some Postum. That was a very interesting beverage. I'm not a fan, but maybe I can make the Dr. Pepper, and that was more because of the pickles and the Dr. Pepper combination. I might be able to make some DP work with Postum.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have
Look
some
at
international.
You have issued a challenge, Matt, and I may rise to the level.
You look at Georgia's face and she's thinking, what is wrong with these Americans?
Well,
I'm just thinking I am surrounded by American culture right now and I do not know what to do. Daniel, help me out.
well, Kurt stole my words. Yeah, we need to add some international flavors there, but then the faces will just reverse, I guess.
Right.
There's a South American like warm drink, isn't there, that your wife told me about, Daniel?
Mate, yerba mate.
That's
for
it.
those that know what mate is. Well, there are some mate soft drinks in the US. Actually, I tried one that was really bad. And I won't say the brand because they don't sponsor us, but
That's
yes,
right.
it's really and yeah, it's like this loophole with the word of wisdom. Many claim, but yeah, they drink that quite a bit in the southern cone of South America. So yeah,
Nice.
maybe
Anything,
a mate brand
Georgia,
might sponsor us one day.
Anything, Georgia, you would do to make it more British, a Postum, like a mix-in, or I mean, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. That's a really good
tea
question,
doesn't work.
actually.
Earl
I was
Grey
just going to
Postum.
say, yeah, tea would be the thing that we would mix with the Postum, but we can't really do that being, last day
You get
saints.
herbal tea, right? So,
What you do,
Yeah.
I learned this on my travels. What you do is you take a scone, a British scone, and you take cream and jam, and you have that with your Postum, and then you have a British
there
tea
you go.
time snack.
Ooh, but
A
do you
little
put the
side.
jam on first or the cream on first? Because this is important and I'm going to judge you on your
I
answer.
learned you have to put the jam on first and then the cream. And I
You're
was
wrong.
a little. I did it wrong. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
It's cream and then jam.
I think so. But there's a way that you do it in Devon and a way that you do it in Cornwall. And it's, the opposite.
Oh.
I can't
So it's
remember which one's which.
It's like the toilet roll paper thing, but British version. I didn't know that. I'm finding out. Oh.
That's awesome. That's good.
Well, and I
Go
chose
ahead,
the
Matt.
Devon way. That's what I do. I do it the Devon way or the Cornwall way.
I can't remember which one's
okay.
which, but I just know that I go the opposite to you, which is kind of the same with most things in life. So that, that's fine.
Yeah. That's good.
Awesome. Well, another addition in 2024 is Matt and Melissa. You became very ambitious and thought you're going to record some interviews, and you've recorded a good handful of interviews. Any reflection on 2024 and the interview experience you had?
I think it's been delightful. I don't know if the listeners know this, but here's how the interviews work. I tell Matt who I want to talk to, and he arranges everything. And then I show up. He's really good at reaching out and contacting people and following up and sending emails and links, and I just show up. So it's been delightful for me. But I actually have really enjoyed it. I think it's been a fun way for us and also for the listeners to get to know a broader range of members of the church. And I always think that's a good thing.
I'm surprised at who's willing to sit down with us, Melissa.
Me too.
Elder Meredith sat down with us. John Curtis, now the senator from the state of Utah. And then we also like to have some just everyday people who have really interesting stories to tell. I think it's a lot of fun. We're not shooting for any particular kind of genre. We mostly just will talk to anybody who's willing to talk to us that has an interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
Love it. And I was looking at the analytics, and there was like this big spike for somebody. I'm like, who was that?
It's our Chad Daybell. It's Taylor Hill.
And at first I'm like, Taylor Hill, what was that about? And it was Daybell adjacent, right? So he was their neighbor or something, right?
Yep, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was really good friends with, I think it's Garth Daybell, but maybe it was a different Daybell son. And so we talked to him the day of the Chad Daybell sentencing. And so there were a lot of people who don't normally pay attention to this podcast that were very interested in hearing his perspective on the trial.
Yeah. Yeah, fascinating. Our analytics, our downloads kind of trend with anytime Daybell is in the news, So I want to wish another Daybell type event, but it is good for news business. So
there's that guy in Idaho, Brian Kohlberger. His trial is going to start sometime this year. If we could sort of make the world think he is a member of our church, that could do really good things for our analytics.
Okay, or start searching. Yeah, I'll start searching for connections.
He has a distant aunt that goes to Relief
Society.
Society.
He drove by an LDS church once.
In the middle of the night.
On the way
to the murders.
Nice. So, Melissa, for you, was there any interview that stood out over others for you that you enjoyed?
I really enjoyed, and Matt, this probably wasn't your favorite, but I really enjoyed Dan McClellan. He was he's like a guy who is really popular on the internet, on Twitter and on Instagram. He likes to get Bible facts that are out there that are wrong and correct them. I really enjoyed him mainly because I'd been asked by like younger generation to try to get him on the podcast, and I didn't know who he was at all. And I just thought I thought he was really entertaining to interview. And I also have been following him since getting to know him, and have really enjoyed him. So that was one of my favorites. Yeah. How about you, Matt? Did you have a favorite one?
Well, obviously my favorite is my good friend Masha Bogmet from Ukraine, who I taught when I was a missionary.
Yeah, that was cool.
Her English wasn't awesome, so it was a little bit rough to get through it, but I loved that interview and her perspective on things. And she was recently became a U.S. citizen, so she talked about leaving Ukraine, coming to the United States, becoming a U.S. citizen. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any wish list guests for 2025 that you have, or anybody you're chasing, Matt?
I chase whoever Melissa tells me to chase. Right now, we're chasing someone from the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. That's like on the radar. She wants me to find She wants me to find a mission president, which there are a few that I know. And I don't know are there any big names that you want me to try and find, Melissa?
Well, Matt, I know that when we started, you had one really big get that you wanted, and it was well before this was important, but you wanted to interview. Do you remember this? Lori Daybell from jail. That was what you told me you wanted at the very beginning.
Swing for the fences, Matt. That's great.
She moved to Arizona. So I was like, she's right here in Rexburg. I'm sure I could just sit down and chat with her, but it didn't work.
Well, I want to hear the Mitt Romney Melissa interview. That one would be entertaining. Okay, because he's
if
his
Mitt
schedule's
Romney
opening up.
Yeah, if he hears any of my previous comments, he probably would say no to the podcast.
No way. Mitt Romney doesn't care if you love him or hate him. He just wants to speak his truth.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Well,
I
we'll see what
agree.
you can do, Matt. We'll see what you can do.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the top stories of 2024. Now, just a caveat here for those listening. We are recording this on December 14th, 2024. So if anything dramatic happens the next few weeks and we leave it out here, that's because we don't own a DeLorean. So roll with us that we can't tell the future, but this is up to this point. And I figured out how to do a form, and maybe I'll post this so if people want to take it as far as rank your own stories, the top 10 stories. I took a list of, I don't know, 15, 20 stories or something, and put it out there and said, rank them, right? What's the number one story to the number 10 story? And so we all did that. I don't know. How did we do this before? What's the best way to do it? Do we start with number one? I guess so.
I'll tell you my number one that nobody else agreed with.
Yes, I can't wait for you to defend. First of all, let me just insert here. All of us, everybody who took the survey, except two, one person being named Matt, did not select the church buys the Kirtland temple. To me, this was like earth-shattering, groundbreaking news. But Matt, why don't you kick us off here and defend your number one story of the year?
My number one story is Elder Holland healing and getting better fast. Like, to me, that's the best story of all. Partly because I predicted that he would be dead by the end of the year, but also because but also because it's a miraculous healing. Like, to me, that is such a big deal, such a big story.
Awesome.
Like purchasing a temple. Come on, people buy things all the time. How
Just
often do people get healed from sickness? That doesn't happen as often. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, there's not too many big purchases like that the church can make. But any thoughts on that? I mean, obviously it was talked about in earlier recordings this year, but any reflections on the church buying the Kirtland temple? I mean, it seems like it kind of came and went, and now people are doing tours, and the church runs the tours. And I don't know if I doubt any of us have been there since they purchased it. But Daniel, go ahead.
I think growing up in the church, it's one of those things that you would hear like one day, this might happen, and it would be like associated with like, I don't know, like getting an invite to go to Adam on Diamond, or like, kind of these big like end of times types of things. And the collaboration with the Community of Christ, the former reorganized church, I think was also quite a signal of where we are now and how times have evolved and how they've changed. So I think that there are so many angles through which these news are so, as you said before, earth-shattering. Another dimension is the 9-figure amount that was disbursed to do this, which speaks of the already very talked about sheer size of the church's wealth, right? And how this plays along with actually indirectly or actually quite directly helping another church within the Mormon kind of spectrum, like the Community of Christ, who were actually quite in need of some extra funds, and also seeing the reaction on their end and the conflict of letting go of something so significantly important to them, and the reaction of members on our side. I was really pleased, for example, with the compassionate reaction from many members, acknowledging that was probably earth-shattering news, negatively speaking to members of the Community of Christ. So it was a really multi-dimensional event that's the reason why I also picked it as the top event for the year.
Awesome. Anybody else? Any thoughts on Kirtland Temple? That basically sums it up, right? I'm curious, like what else is there for the church to buy? Right? Like,
are you serious?
What's the next big purchase the church could do?
The Seashell Temple in Independence, Missouri, the Community of Christ headquarters.
You think they want that?
Sure. Like that's where there's a church called Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Temple Lot.
Oh yeah,
that's founded around the idea that they own that plot of land where the temple's supposed to be built. So I would say all of that area in Independence, Missouri would be the big. I would put that as my number one story if they purchased that.
Nice. Or if Elder Holland recovers again. He's like, he's 120. He keeps recovering. It's amazing.
I do think a story that we didn't really make a single story because it's a big story, and Daniel referred to this a little bit though, is really how much money the church is spending currently. We're building a lot of temples. We're announcing a lot of temples. We're putting a lot of money towards relief efforts. And I just think overall, when you say like, what could the church purchase? it does bring one to wonder, like, how much money do we have? I think that's a story that's brought up in a lot of other stories throughout the year that, how much money does the church really have? How are they really spending it? How aware are we of all of this?
Mm-hmm.
They could buy more land in Nebraska, more land in Florida.
Right. They bought so much farmland, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
Well, I've got something actually. I think they're going to buy more land. Yeah,
ahead,
but
Georgia.
land in Africa, I would say, because that's where the church is really growing. You mentioned the USA, but it's growing a lot in Africa. So maybe they'll be buying plots for chapels there, which is kind of the opposite to what seems to be happening in the UK, which is that our chapels are getting closed and, the land isn't being used. But Africa certainly is a place where the church is growing really big.
And of course, all of that comes with the kind of the morality of it as well, which is kind of the elephant in the room, right? There's a lot of debate in the non-church discourse around billionaires, for example, and the influence that they may have in politics, in society in general, cross-border influence as well, global influence. And in a way, you might make the case that the church, since the way it behaves, it's a little bit like a billionaire institute. I mean, quite literally, the kind of the estimated wealth of the church is in the billions, right? In the hundreds of billions, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. With great power comes a lot of responsibility, and I think a question that will keep going back to probably into 2025 and beyond is exactly that: is how is the church spending its money? What does it say about the church as an institution and the reflection and the intersection of the church with the message of the gospel? That will remain a very, very hot point. I know we're not getting into predictions yet, but I'll throw it out there straight away. This is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and on the reverse, as Georgia mentioned, the church is also closing buildings in Salt Lake City. There's historic chapels that they've sold. The number of as maybe members of the church leave urban areas and move into other kinds of areas, the church is also selling a lot of property as they purchase in other places.
Yeah. And maybe this will lead us into our next top story, but something that I've noticed the church spending a lot of money on is young single adults, YSA. And I did make that, I think, maybe my second or third top story. Is it okay if we jump to that, you guys?
Yeah, I just noticed on the data, there's not like there's a clear number one, but from here on out, there's not a clear number 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
if you
we had another big YSA conference in Salt Lake, and then we saw that mimicked around, several other states and even a couple of countries throughout the world where they did this big YSA conference. Those cost money. Those cost a lot of money. And then I think we saw the church investing. Another big change was this change of the YSAs, where now we have kind of a split age group or a split demographic YSA ward. So it's kind of now we can have, this is optional, depending on where you live, but now you can have a YSA ward that is just 18 to 25-year-olds, and then another YSA ward that is 26 to 35-year-olds. And so you're looking at increased budgets just in almost like duplicating some of these wards, but and investment of time, I think, certainly in these young single adults. I think I've made the prediction for 2 years that we're going to see a YSA auxiliary created. That's probably not very practical, but my point just being is that we're really focusing a lot of attention on this demographic and funds on this demographic.
Yeah, there was the story, the age change. They bumped the YSA category up to 35 years old, and then as you highlight, most of this emphasis on having specific events. There's a big one in Salt Lake, and now they're popping up all around the world, back east, and I heard one in Colorado, and I think Michigan. So
actually, I think they started internationally, and then they started bringing them to the United States.
Yeah, there's a big one in Europe, in Scandinavia, generally called, what's it called?
Festinord.
Festinord, yeah.
Whoa.
But it's like the EFY of the YSA that now it's being kind of mimicked and replicated. It's kind of the origin story of this, which I find quite good. Not that many things come out of Europe and then become more global. So,
and it's huge. Loads of people from the UK fly to wherever they host it that year. Norway or Sweden or Finland, Denmark, wherever it ends up being. It is a really well-known.
Fun locations,
event. Yeah.
What about you, Matt? Your number 2 story was the adjustments in the handbook. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't know what that story was, but I was like, this sounds fascinating. Okay, so there's an adjustment in the handbook about transgender bathrooms.
Yeah, that was one of many, but that was sort of the one that got the media spotlight.
Yeah, what was? I have no idea what that was.
But it got number 2.
It was
All
number
right.
2 for me.
All
I was
right.
like, are you serious? I got to know more about this. If I rank it high, we're sure to talk about it.
Yeah.
Nice. Anybody remember the detail or the rough details on that?
We don't know.
Yeah, I remember rough details. You need to go by your biological gender at birth, and when you're looking at things like callings and obviously like priesthood ordination and stuff like that, that was pointed out more clearly.
Okay.
And as far as using bathrooms, you need to go to the bathroom that you're biologically gendered assigned to, and then there's something about having somebody stand outside of the bathroom or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A second person assigned to a bathroom. Yeah. I was frankly surprised this didn't get more coverage, more attention. I was surprised, frankly. Maybe it doesn't affect as many members, and therefore it didn't get as much attention, but I thought they were pretty significant changes. Matt, I remember we did talk about this, Matt, you and I, and it's okay that you don't remember the story at all. we did cover it a little bit because I remember you said something about we were talking about like how I said there would be a YSA auxiliary, and I said, why couldn't women serve in the Sunday school presidency? Like I was talking about changes like that coming up, and the point that you made that was good at the time. Well, I'm not going to really want to give you credit for it, but it was good at the time. As you said, with the churches kind of, being more firm on these transgender policies, it doesn't seem like we're going to have more movability and gender roles within like serving, because we're really like pressing down hard on gender assigned callings. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
To me, it's likely this was my second or third top choice as well, because of also what it probably signals about the direction of the church on certain topics. It seems like in some topics it's moving in a direction that is very much in line with broader change in society, whereas this one was very much on the opposite direction. And I might have said it on an episode, or I might have recorded the last one before this came out. But being very frank, I was kind of glad that I had been recently released as a bishop before this policy came out. I was fortunate that I had never had to deal with any tricky case within this part of the spectrum. But I honestly think I couldn't have enforced this. I have deep issues with this policy, and I know that many people do as well. And I was also somewhat surprised that it didn't get much more coverage, and it probably speaks of the volume of people that this policy represents, probably not as much as like what happened in 2015 when the policy about baptism of children of same-sex couples came to light, and that was really problematic. It was a bit of a seismic moment for many people. Not as much this time, probably just as a function of the number of people affected, but it is a tough one. I think it will eventually come back as well. It's one that probably will create more discussion, not the specific policy, but other things that happen around the issue of transgender members and intersex members, and the wide spectrum within gender that certainly our doctrine and current positions don't see eye to eye with kind of the current understanding in the academic world, in science, and in society as well.
This is going to seem like it's not related, but I promise it is. So in our department,
comment. Here we go.
In our department, like we have this box that says free books, and whenever people are trying to get rid of books, or instead of throwing them away, you just put them in this box, and anyone who wants can come and take the books. But we also share our offices with like bishoprics and stake presidencies and whatever. And I noticed recently that like that box of free books is filled with handbook twos, like old handbook twos. Like nobody wants to pick those up. And sometimes when it comes to policy, I think it's a little bit like that. Like at the time we're like, what? But within like 10 years, everybody's like, who cares? Like policies sort of change a lot, right? And sometimes I think they test things out and try and get a feel for how to manage a global church with various policies. And frankly, I think policies change so much, we can't even keep track of them anymore, which is why policies that are 10 years old, nobody cares about what they were then or even wants to read them now.
Yeah, but I would argue that it's not the destination, but the friends you make along the way type of thinking that, policies might change, but the either the benefit that they bring or the damage that they do, that does stay with some people. And I guess in this group, we might be privileged that we might not have been as affected or might not have kind of direct people in our circles that might be as affected by policies like this. But I would argue that this one is one that we might look back to, just like we do with the 2015 policy, and be like, yeah, that kind of didn't pan out really well. That's one of my other predictions. Sorry that I'm throwing all the predictions too early in the episode.
Totally true.
One thing I appreciated about this, and this, I recognize the sensitivity of this topic, and it's really difficult, and whether you agree with this direction of the handbook or not, I would much rather, I don't think it's fair for a church, when we have a lay leadership where bishops and leaders are called, where they didn't ask for these roles, they didn't apply for them, they didn't get specific training for them, and then they're put in this place of somebody saying, well, maybe a member comes to him and has an issue with who's using the bathroom, or all these things that I would much rather, right or wrong, have the church have a clear statement on how they want local leaders to do it, then put it up for the local leader to figure it out. Good luck, buddy. And again, there's probably a lot of bishops that would handle it the right way, even maybe more sensitive and appropriate than what the guidelines say. But it also, I feel like, maybe gives more credence to well, definitely don't kick these people out of your church, or, make a space for them, start working towards it. And again, it's really hard to have a general thing like that, but I'd much rather the church articulate what to do rather than leaving that up to these lay leaders who really, weren't asked to, didn't expect maybe to make these tough calls.
100%. So. Yeah.
I have close friends and family members who are transgender, so I didn't mean to trivialize it. I think that it's just one of the ways I cope with it sometimes is I just say, look, policies change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Hopefully it will, to be honest. I'm in Daniel's camp. I found it really tricky. Maybe in the UK, the climate's a little bit different in the church. That it certainly had a lot of noise over here. People were saying, what's going on here. So I think maybe it was received a little bit differently, but hopefully it will change.
And that's the thing with policy. I think what you're saying, Matt, is over time, I think we get it generally right? We sort of get towards the sensitive, well-balanced approach, but, some people would probably strongly disagree with that, but that's my hope, is that we're moving in a direction that is helpful. So, Tiffany, I want to go to you. You put your number 2 as the release of the new hymns. Is that correct? Do you want to speak to that?
I did. So the reason I put that as number 2 is, to me, that was just such a huge deal. The last time that we had an update to the hymn book was in 1985. I was a teenager. I very much remember that. It has been overdue for a very long time. And the church announced it several years ago, but it has just taken them much longer to actually add the new hymns, because they had so much feedback from the members and so many new hymns to consider. And I really like how they're rolling them out. I like how they're, dishing them out, 10 to 15 at a time. They're dishing them out electronically, so it's not so overwhelming. And I don't know what other wards are doing. What we're doing is, a lot of times our choir will learn the new hymn, and then our choir will perform it in sacrament meeting, so that then when we go to sing it as a congregation in sacrament meeting, a good chunk of the congregation already knows the hymn because they learned it in choir. And then the ward members are familiar with the hymn because they heard the choir sing it. Some of the new hymns are more controversial than others that they have added in. And so that's been an interesting take too, to hear people's opinions about what they like being added in and what they are like, why is that in the hymn book now? So I think when the final hymn book comes out, we don't know what hymns are being removed. I am going to be very curious to see what hymns they take out when we get to that point. So this is a fun story that is ongoing, that we can follow it, much like we followed the Chad and Lori Daybell trial. It comes to us in bits and pieces, and so we get to cover it. It's not just a one and done until the actual new hymn book is done. So that's why I picked it for number 2.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Like, it's cool when they announce like, here's some new hymns, and you can find them in the app or whatever. But
Yeah.
also announce like what hymns they're like. We're executing 10 hymns this week. Like, here's the 10
Yes.
that'll just disappear, and like that'd be interesting. So.
I've got some I cannot wait to get rid of. Every time we sing them, I'm like, I hope this is the last one. I hope this is the last time we sing this song.
I play the organ in my ward now, like half of the Sundays, and I've been assigned a few from what I call like the black hole of the English hymn book, which is like from number 30 to like 60. I don't know, that they just don't exist in Spanish. I've never heard them, and we never sing them either. And whenever I have to go figure them out, I'm like, yeah, this one shouldn't make it to the next iteration. They're kind of not really nice. But yeah, I've been super excited about the new hymns. We had stake conference back in October here. It's a relatively new stake. It got merged last year with part of a neighboring stake. And there's a lot of very musical people, and they sing really loudly. And this last conference, we sang pretty much all of the big hits from the new hymn book, and also some children's songs. We incorporated that to kind of represent the primary kids and the rising generation a bit more. And it was fantastic, like singing Amazing Grace with 600 people there. Come thou fount of every blessing. It was really kind of culture defining, and culture eats policy or doctrine for breakfast, I've heard someone say here and then. And I think this is a kind of culture defining, a culture shifting that we might not realize right now quite a bit, but it will gradually start having that effect, just like Tiffany said with the 1985, was it? 1985 hymn book back then, and all of that. I was way too young then when it came out. I don't think I had been quite born. I was born in 85, but yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
really looking forward to that.
I am going to take exception with what Daniel said about hymns 30 through 60. I pulled them up to see what they were and why Daniel finds them so offensive. They are a bunch of the pioneer hymns. And I'm like,
Sweet is the
love these.
Are they pioneer?
We've got,
I
ye
hadn't
mountains
checked, sorry.
high, for the strength of the hills, they the
that's a good
builders
one.
of the nation. So,
Yeah.
but I can understand why. I mean, for me, I have a lot of pioneer heritage. And so I can understand why maybe in the South American countries, they might not be as appreciative of the pioneer hymns as perhaps I am.
You're lucky you're
That's a fair
leaving,
point.
Daniel, or we'd kick you out.
Here I make my exit. Thank you.
That's right.
Hey, Daniel, I have a question.
Yeah.
Aren't there hymns in the Spanish hymnal that we don't have in the English hymnal?
There are a couple that come to mind. One is, it doesn't work if I say it in Spanish. I'm going to say it anyway. Placentero nos es trabajar, which means like it's pleasing to us to work, which is kind of a famous tune, kind of in the evangelical kind of Christian world. But yeah, I've never found it in English. And there's one that is very marchy called A Dios ofrecemos gozosa canción, which means we offer to God our joyful song, which also I don't think it is in the English hymn book. And they're quite popular in Spanish. I hope some of those cross into English. And Tiffany, I apologize. I hadn't even realized that all of those were pioneer hymns. And that's probably a reason why they haven't been translated, because that's mainly the reason that we haven't seen them. But yeah, my apologies to all.
So I have offense. I'm just giving you a bad time.
That's right. That's what we do here. So I've got a naive American question for our UK brothers and sisters. The patriotic hymns have been a little bit controversial, or many have speculated that they'll disappear since we're such an international church now. But do they really ever sing "God Save the King" in the UK? Or
so I believe when the Queen died, we sung "God Save the King," but we do. Daniel, you know a little bit.
I played it a few times. So we have the Remembrance Sunday, which is in November here. It's quite a big deal. And there's usually kind of not necessarily a special program, like each ward or stake varies on what they do. But I played God Save the Queen or King a couple of times for those. And especially older members, they tend to stand and really want to sing those. So yeah, I sang it. And definitely when... for those other special dates when the Queen passed away, or also for the Jubilee, I think they were sang.
Yeah, we sometimes sing it, but to be honest, and maybe I'm terrible for saying this, but I really do not like the British national anthem. I just do not think it sounds very good. I know,
Wow.
maybe
Love
it's
the British
blasphemous to
national
say that.
anthem.
Oh, do you see?
Yeah.
I'm keen for the perspective. Lots of us Brits just think it sounds a bit dreary. There's a few others that I would put in, maybe in its place. But I just don't love it, so I'm
Oh, I
not too
like
bothered
it.
about singing it. But
I-
certainly the older generations love it, so
I
they love
like
singing
it.
it.
I'm biased because I like the Brian May from Queen's version, like an all guitar version. I don't know if you're familiar with it from the 1970s. That's how I was introduced to it. So that's probably why I like it. But I know that here in the UK, there are other patriotic hymns that are like semi accepted, like Jerusalem or I Vow to Thee My
Jerusalem, I
Country.
vow to thee, my country. Yeah,
Those are
those
very
are the
nice.
two that I would.
Those are very
Yeah.
nice musically, but yeah, there's always the eternal debate of should we sing those at church or not, because we're leaning maybe too heavily on a complicated past that's not really super nice for like maybe half of the members that come here that are not from the UK.
Yeah,
so
and we have so many international members in our
We do.
congregations here that it kind of feels a little bit off if we do sing it.
Yeah.
So you just sing America the Beautiful and make everybody happy.
Ha ha ha! No.
That's great. That's great. Daniel, I know you may have to sneak out early here, but so I want to go to your number 3 story was the Heretic movie, which but at this point we know is the highest grossing Mormon or Latter-day Saint adjacent film of all time. So, and I think it broke that record in the first weekend. But anything, I mean, you want to kick us off there about the Heretic movie?
Yeah, I have no idea. Well, in the last episode, for those I might want to go back into our catalog, we talked about it briefly in the international episode. And yeah, I think that I was the only one that had seen it there in the group. And I absolutely loved, not necessarily like the movie, but everything around the movie. I think it was the first time that I saw kind of a really high quality portrayal of the what can I call it, missionary or the Mormon experience in a way that was really taken seriously, regardless of what we or others might think about how it represents either the church or beliefs or religion in general, because it's basically an argument about religion and how it works with belief or non-belief. I found it that the church, the gospel, the missionaries were a tremendously like effective conduit to drive that conversation, and I appreciated that it was taken seriously. Part of me was also not necessarily surprised, but a bit frustrated with how much pushback it got in some circles. I was talking to a lot of friends in Chile from my mission, where we have a very active group, and even within them, like some of them are already serving in pretty senior positions in the church, and or they're married to kind of relatively senior leaders in that area of the world. And their response to it seemed like so like old-fashioned, like, no, we would never look at that because only look at like things that are positive about the church. And I was like, but you haven't seen it. Like my reaction to it was really positive. I think it helped me actually consider many things about my belief, about the church, and that were just good. And I always say that if we believe in the things that we believe and we take them, like we give them the credit that they merit because we think they are true, they will withstand a little bit of pushback, right? And sometimes we lack faith in our faith. And in this one, I'm glad that I did not look the other way, that I actually watched the movie, because I found it a fascinating piece of art where the church is taken seriously. And I just love that.
I disagree.
Oh,
go on.
Go for it.
But in fairness, I also hate The Chosen. But
me too. We have that in
come
common.
on,
Me
guys.
I
literally have a Chosen Tumblr here.
Oh, I do.
Anyways.
I made it 7 minutes into Heretic before I had to stop watching because their portrayal of sister missionaries drove me crazy. Like, there's a sister missionary talking about watching some porn movie, and that's how she gained her faith in Jesus Christ. I was like, what is this? That's not being fair to our church.
Wow,
that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take that scene out, I would say, like, because there was a lot of talk about the, like, or and I've had conversations with people in the church communications department, and they keep coming back to, as far as the betrayal, the portrayal of Latter-day Saints in film or media, is that they just want Hollywood to portray them as normal people, right?
Yes.
And to me, I felt like in the Heretic, other than that conversation, which was a little bit weird. Okay, a lot weird. But in general, like if you did a prequel about each one of those sister mercenaries' lives, I felt like there was maybe a real story behind there, or it didn't. I mean, the one sister was sort of portrayed as a bit naive, but you're going to see that, right, amongst missionaries, this sort of
I saw
naivete
them
as
all around.
they go into the
Yeah.
world, right? So I kind of felt like that didn't give it enough credit of portraying Latter-day Saints as, like, yeah, these are normal people, and we're going to use them in this framing of to show this crazy Hugh Grant character who, even though he was very critical of religion in general, he still came off as the crazy one at the end of the story. But
Yeah.
So the missionaries are better in this movie than they are in Book of Mormon, the musical, but
Yeah.
maybe kind of on par with God's Army, the way God's Army portrays missionaries. But there were just some things where I was like, come on. I don't know anybody in the church who ever would have said, I was watching this porno movie and that's the foundation of my
Yeah.
faith. So
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
you could do it.
That's fair, but I know of enough missionary conversations that might not be as odd,
Yeah.
but definitely as inappropriate. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
that's
Yeah.
one thing
Or
for
even
the
more
other.
weird, like what
Yeah.
planet are you from, Elder? Right. So
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the Heretic movie? I mean, obviously we've talked about it in past episodes, but I think obviously a definite worth honorable or worth mentioning, in 2024. So very good, very good. Any other story you want to make sure we mention as we go through here? We're kind of all over the
mine
map.
is BYU has a new basketball coach, and I think it's a big deal because that basketball coach allowed them to land the top recruit. He's not a member of the church, and that's a big deal, I think, for the church because sure, there's the BYU stuff and the sports and all that stuff, but it has led to a lot of coverage about the BYU honor code and the expectations of people who choose to go to BYU, and I think that that's positive for the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely we're coming across as a serious contender, right? Like we're attracting talent. I say we because I'm on the basketball team, but but yeah, it's interesting because now the honor code, I think I saw the headline, I didn't read the article, but it's like, yeah, this is actually something that's giving some structure to the experience, that those who come, sort of the one and done talent, that like this AJ individual who's coming, who will just be there for a year, but he's got a MBA experienced coach, and he'll be able to come and have a positive college experience that will hopefully keep him out of trouble because of the honor code and move on and have a successful career in the NBA. So
yeah, I remember back when Jimmer Fredette was a big deal. I lived in Kansas at the time, and there were big stories about the honor code because somebody had violated or something like that. And I had more conversations with non-members of our church about the church because of that sports angle, and they were like, "What's this honor code?" And so I think it's a really big deal for the news for the church.
yeah, that should almost be on our list as that recruit of AJ. I forget his last name.
Bonsta, yeah, I can't remember his last
Yeah, I
name.
mean that's a serious thing. So
And
Okay.
related, just breaking news, Utah State does get Bronco Mendenhall.
that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
He's slowly crawling back to BYU.
You think? Is that what you really think, Kurt?
I mean, I love Kalani, but if my son, who was an all-star, top recruit, I would probably say go with Bronco. But that's hard for me to
How
say because I'm
dare
a
you?
big
How
BYU
dare
fan.
you?
I know.
That's horrible.
And I'm a little biased. I've interviewed Bronco and really just impressed by his approach. And I will be interviewing Kalani Sadaki in 2025. So we'll see if my bias changes once I see how it
Maybe you'll be interviewing him. If he listens to this episode, he might not want to.
know, right? Yikes. Cool. Tiffany, were you going to
there's
share
a
something?
story that I think is there's a story that I think is a really big deal that wasn't on our list. And I
Okay.
don't know why it just didn't even dawn on me till I was thinking about it this morning. The change in the women's garments. To me, that is one of the hugest stories to come out of 2024 for me, because the changes in the women's garments are radical. It is not just a material change in terms of, oh, we've got this new material. The fact that the tops will be sleeveless, which opens up more options to wear sleeveless clothing for women, and the slip option. I think the slip option is so completely fascinating, especially for those sisters that live in very warm and humid climates and wear a lot of dresses, such as in Africa. But I'm just thinking, for me, I'm like, holy cow, that is just going to radically change when I wear a dress. And so I think the changes in the garments for the women was a really, really big story this year, at least for me.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I can't say that I'm super excited because I feel like I have to wait so long to actually get to try them out, right? Right now it's just a picture and a dream. A picture and a dream. But
A year
I
from
think
now, we'll know.
I hope so. I do think it speaks to the church listening a little bit more to not just women's feedback, but to things that people are saying, like the ways that people are trying to advocate for change are different in the way that this came about. And I think that that's really the bigger story is how is the church listening to us? I mean, we had another big story like this where Sister Dennis gave a talk and a lot of women responded to it online. And then we had the church listening to that for the first time and responding to that in a different way than we ever have before. So I think that those combined are a really big issue of 2024.
It's going to lead into, this is something I'm going to make a prediction about, but I don't know if we also mentioned this story where if you're a military service member or you're a member of the police, there's different like uniform requirements. And so the church no longer has military garments. You just purchase a uniform and then you take it to like church distribution in your area or whatever. And then they put the stuff on it to make it official temple garments. You know, they no longer do that at church distribution. So that's, I think changes in that regard are a big change.
Yeah. And I wish, I kind of wonder, I mean, I kind of understand this. It's a little bit too hasty, but I wish instead of saying, hey, this sleeveless garment is coming, why not just say, hey, if you want, cut your sleeves off.
Right.
But anyway.
I think speaking of culture again, this is one of those things that over time we'll see how it will drive a culture change. Like so many things have been taught or shared or ingrained in our culture that kind of come from or at least correlated with the authorized pattern of the garment until this day. Like a couple generations at least have been kind of dealing with that. Everything around modesty especially is what's on my mind, and all of those narratives are very much shattered by this change. And I know that it's been difficult for some people to reckon with that fact. I welcome the change significantly. I think in a way it's kind of potentially overdue, but I think that's going to radically change how we speak about modesty, and I welcome that change. I think the change had already been brewing and kind of evolving over time. There's definitely been a shift from how things were being taught during my young men's years versus now, and that's great. But this further solidifies that, and I think it brings the garment to a place that more closely resembles what it should be. Right, it centers around the covenants that they're meant to help us remember.
Georgia, let's go to you. You put as your number 3 story is the Hulu Secret Lives of what is it? Secret Lives of
Mormon wives.
Mormon wives. Thank you.
Lives of Mormon
I've gotten
wives.
Mormon out of my system so much that, anyways, yeah. What took you to that story?
I mean, I was kind of hoping you would skip over this one because I'm happy to talk about it now, but I was just a little bit embarrassed that I put that as my number 3 story and then I got called out on it, but never mind. I guess my point, and we spoke about it earlier with Heretic, is that I feel like it's the first time where Latter-day Saints have been portrayed as normal. And it's so nice for me because so many of my friends who have their only understanding of the church is the Book of Mormon musical. That's what they go on. So that's what they think I am. And then they watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and they're like, whoa, what is your church? And it opens up that dialogue. So that's why I put it as a story that ranks quite high, because I've had so many good conversations with people, and it's not a preachy conversation. So many people are scared about talking about religion nowadays. And it's just a nice conversation because they can say, what's this all about? What's that all about? But we can talk about it in a mindless way because it's just a mindless reality TV show. So it's been really big for me this year because of the conversations I've been able to have with people and the kind of misconceptions I've been able to break down. Because the Book of Mormon musical, I've seen it. I don't know if anyone else recording today has also seen it. Daniel, you're saying you have. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it portrays the church really negatively, but it certainly leaves things in the mind of the person watching it which aren't necessarily true. So I think the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is just opening up that dialogue, which I'm loving. And my friends are all excited for season 2, and then there'll be more conversations to be had, I'm sure. So that's why I put it down.
Yeah, interesting. And again, I don't know if I'd class that's another normal representation, but at least we're on the other side of the spectrum for a little bit, rather than the naive, silly religious. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people think that I'm, a polygamist, that I'm Amish, that I'm, and no shade on those people who choose to live that lifestyle, but it's just not what I am. And I think it's nice to see a different portrayal.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's been huge.
Well,
I've had conversations with colleagues. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just was going to say, I want to comment on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, because I didn't rank it as high as Georgia. And then I regretted my choice because I wanted to rank it higher when I thought about it afterwards. So. Because
nice.
It has generated so much press. It was Hulu's #1 download of the year. And ABC is now going to show it in national prime time come January after The Bachelor. They're going to show season 1. They've committed to season 2. And so it is getting so much press, which is why I think it's kind of a really big deal, because there are, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but there are some interesting portrayals in there of Mormonism. And I think in a lot of these reality TV shows, not only in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but Real Housewives of Salt Lake. And there's a brand new one on Bravo called Selling Salt Lake that I've watched, that Ariane and I are going to talk about next time we record. They kind of portray this version of Mormon 2.0 is what I call it, to coin a phrase from Lisa Barlow of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where they're kind of cafeteria picking. I want to live this one. I don't want to live that one. I want to consider myself Mormon, but maybe not a member of the church in the traditional sense. And they've kind of developed their own kind of unique relationship with the church. I mean, I guess everybody has their own unique relationship with the church, but it's just not the typical thing that we see. And so I think it's opening up a whole lot of dialogue and conversation about what does it mean to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Can you consider, because many of them consider themselves to be members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they don't participate. They choose to participate in a different way, is what I'm saying. And so I think it is a very interesting dialogue for us to have amongst ourselves, and for also the outside world to perceive as well.
Daniel, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, just to add to the impact that it had, beyond probably the intended or the primary target, I watched it. I saw it and I found it fascinating. It really shattered my own prejudice about kind of the overall look and feel of the show. And it opened up quite a lot of interesting conversations with my wife, with others, even with some colleagues that know absolutely nothing about the church. And it opened up those conversations that Georgia described that were pretty safe to have, because it was not about religion. It was more about what surrounds it, and it allowed me to have pretty meaningful conversations. So yeah, I agree with it, with the ranking. I think it's we'll see what comes with season 2, I guess, and how much it drives the conversation.
Yeah. All right. Now, if there were members of the church who were listening to this episode or hearing about 2024 and they lived in the time of maybe the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they realize that we haven't mentioned that we're at 200 dedicated temples, and we've got a full hour without mentioning this. And I guess when I step back and think about the broader impact of 2024, I mean, maybe somebody in the 50s would think it was pretty cool that the church acquires the Kirtland Temple at some point, but to think 200 temples, wow, like that would be the number one story. And I can see someone making that argument that 200 dedicated temples as of 2024 is a pretty big deal. So any thoughts on that? Or, I mean, it's just cool to highlight.
Yeah, it's interesting how we sort of take it for granted because so many temples get announced. But yeah, it is remarkable, the number of temples. And it's not just about the cost of building the temples. It's the cost in time from members of the church to to staff those temples, and it's amazing to me.
Yeah. And I, being the leadership guy running Leading Saints, I so much appreciate this part of President Nelson's leadership, is that he's gone for it. I don't know what conversations happen behind the scenes, or if the finance guys come to him and say, well, that's a little expensive, but he is saying, every conference, he's just not holding back, and he's really filling the world with temples, and it's inspiring to me. So,
Yeah,
speaking of just going for it and spending money, a medical school at BYU, it's like just comes out of nowhere, right? He just announces things and then they happen.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any other stories before we wrap up here that need to be mentioned, or honorable mentions? Or, that medical school one should have gone on the list too, I guess. But
we'll see. We'll see if it ends up being a great thing or a not great thing, right? Yeah.
Any quick feel-good stories that you want to highlight? Let's put the day bells at the back of the line here, and any day or any feel-good stories. My mind went to this may be a little bit niche, but the YouTuber David Boyce, who joined the church. He did the 52 churches in 52 weeks, and went and explored various different churches. Not just Latter-day Saint churches, but was drawn to our people when he visited, and later ended up getting baptized. To me, it's not like a huge story, but I just love that. Like, what a cool experience that somebody leaned into our culture and our experience, and then later became one of us. So,
Melissa, who's the guy you like from American Idol? Tongi? Is that his name? Tongi?
Yeah, that he won American Idol.
And he just recorded an album with the Rexburg Children's Choir.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's a feel-good story.
That is feel-good. Awesome. Any other feel-good honorable mentions here? I think President Nelson turning 100 was a big deal. And it was fun to see our prophet turn 100. And he's still, he's not standing up there at conference anymore, but he's sitting there at conference and delivers a message. And it's inspiring to see him just be a disciple until the end of his days. So
yeah, it's a huge deal. I think part of it was like the birthday, and then it's like, what now? It was a little bit like, what's the next milestone? We don't want to think about it, but definitely huge deal as the longest living general authority. I think the only one that passes him, fact checkers, please fact check me, but Eldred Smith, the last church patriarch, when he used to be a general authority position, I think he got to live until into his 100s. I don't know exactly what
102, 103 or something,
something like that. But he was emeritus already at the time. So, but it's like the only comparable comparison that I can think of. So,
and I attended a meeting with the church communications department where they went over some of these like these big stories that are happening, and they went through a series of like media coverage that President Nelson's 100th birthday got, and it was generally speaking, he's the oldest religious leader, right? And they compare him to the Pope and who are the others?
Dalai Lama.
Yeah, Dalai Lama was another one, right? And the church and communications really was pleased with the media coverage that President Nelson got by turning 100. So I think it puts our name out there in positive ways, and hopefully intrigues people. So.
I think one more feel-good story worth mentioning, and I was waiting for Tiffany to do this because she's much more educated on it than me, but I think the BYU track and field / Olympic steeplechase team, they brought a lot of fun to our summer, and just overall have just been, I think, a real feel-good, a lot of little stories overall.
Yeah, love that. The Olympics always bring some good stories there.
I am going to ditto that. I would have to say my favorite feel-good story of the year is the James Corrigan, not James Corrigan, Kenneth Rooks and his silver finish at the Olympics in the steeplechase.
Yeah, really, really good. So hopefully maybe some future guests of the This Week in Mormons podcast.
Yeah,
Matt, get after it. So
yeah.
All right, let's shift into reviewing some of our 2024 predictions, and we'll do this for 2025 as well. And Matt's at the top of my list because he can take the best of the beatings here. And I would say generally we're definitely not, we don't see into the future, right?
No. No.
So, Matt, I mean, again, you still have some few weeks left. It's kind of dark to think about the people who would need to pass away for this to happen. But you predicted that Elder Uchtdorf would be the president of the Quorum of the 12 by 2024, and well, he's not.
Not. I even said not acting. I think I predicted the death of like 3 people in the first presidency and President Holland. Listen, that didn't seem like a very out of the world prediction at the time, but I'm not going to double down. I'll just say I was wrong, and the Lord's timing is not my timing, and I wasn't wishing for them to die.
Right.
I was just predicting that they would die.
Right. And it made me think. I thought, oh well, I'm pretty sure President Ballard died in 2024, and I looked it up. It was actually November of 2023, and so in 2024, nobody. One of the 12 first presidency passed away. I don't think a 70.
So then I guess I'll predict it again, and it'll help keep them alive for another year.
That's right. Hey, there you go. Or you'll be right. So
I can respect that.
Awesome. All right, Daniel, this was your prediction. Is you predicted that once President Russell M. Nelson turns 100, there would be no major changes. And I would say the major changes, other than announcing temples, has really slowed down, right? I mean, maybe I'm not considering some things, but
probably some you could claim that prediction was somewhat fulfilled. But there've been some. I mean, we talked about some of the news from the year, and they were quite significant, like garments or some policies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that the pace of change has slowed down, and I wonder what's going to happen when there is a new prophet as well.
Yeah,
but we'll cross that bridge when we.
Will it come fast like it did with the call of President Nelson, or
Yeah.
So you also predicted that we'd have a return of young men's presidencies, which I thought was a pretty solid prediction. I could see it go that way, but obviously no announcements.
Probably more like wishful thinking at the time because I was still bishop and I needed some help.
You were under the trauma of it all. So, all right, very good.
You didn't realize you could call some young men's assistants or whatever they're called.
Yeah, well, if I had them, I guess the word no longer exists, so I guess that tells you the end of the story.
Yeah. All right, Melissa, you had predicted that there would be an end of release time seminary and an increased focus on mission prep. Do you want to account for your prediction?
Clearly, I was out in left field. I don't know. It felt right, I guess, at the time. I was wrong. The end.
All right. That's fine. And we were all wrong here. So the other Daniel predicted a temple in upstate New York. Has one been announced up there?
Oh, haven't been tracking. No. We don't have it here.
Definitely not Albany, right? But
there's one in Palmyra. I don't know what more do we.
He was predicting. I guess the Saratoga Springs area is what he said. Like when the Saratoga Springs, Utah temple was announced, he said that everybody sort of held their breath in New York. Thinking it might be there, but so. Anyways, it's hard to keep track of these temples, so maybe there was announced. We'll give him half credit. So because maybe if not. Last year it'll be this year. So
there were like 2 announced in my country in Chile that no one was expecting. So maybe next year he's gonna get his.
Tiffany, you are the one. Maybe you nailed this. A further political divide with the election year. Did you witness that, Tiffany? Was it as bad as you thought, or?
It was not as bad as I thought. I mean, the divide still continues, but I didn't think at least the rhetoric that I read online was nearly as bad as the rhetoric 4 years ago. I think the divide is still very much there.
Yeah. We'll go to our political scientist, Matt. What did you? I mean, what do you assess from the Latter-day Saint experience through this election year? Was it anything surprising to you, or anything expected?
No, there was nothing uniquely LDS about this year's presidential race. Right? I don't think. I think to Tiffany's prediction, this is just my personal view. The reason that the political divisions are less than they were before is because the Republicans won, and they're the ones that are so mean. So I said that just to excite some emotion in our co-hosts.
Romney, stop being mean. So
Matt's not wrong.
I love the diverse opinions, or the not so diverse opinions. But
if I'm being totally honest, I think that the church, like, there was not just one talk about like being peaceful and disagreeing disagreeably and all that. Like, I think our church has made a concerted effort to say we can disagree about politics and it should not bleed over into the other spaces. And I think that's a big reason why members of the church are being less agitated than they have been in the past.
Love it. Tiffany, you also predicted that the Boise area would get another temple, did they? Or
No.
I can't remember.
But we got
right.
giving machines.
That's right.
That's almost as good.
Compensate surprise there. All right, great. You got giving machines. Love it. And hopefully they keep coming back. All right. I made the prediction that the church will become more lax on the use of the word Mormon. And I think it's just one of those things that nobody really talks about other than giving you a side eye when you say Mormon. And yes, this is the This Week in Mormons podcast. And we'll see. So I was also wrong. But all right. Anybody want to jump on 2025 prediction? I mean, you got Matt, you got one that's just like, you just can't wait to get out. All right.
I
let's
have
hear
two predictions. First prediction is that all temple garments will be like, you don't have to get them at the church distribution center. You can just sort of make them at home. And then the second one is, I know that there's a temple announced in Dubai, but I think they're going to announce a temple in the Middle East, like closer to maybe Turkey, or we have a lot of members of the church, service members and various people who live in like areas of the Middle East where they could really use a temple close by. So maybe Syria, maybe a temple in maybe Turkey, somewhere in the Middle East. Maybe Jerusalem would let us have a temple there, in Israel, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my prediction.
I'd like to add on to your garment prediction, Matt, and let's just keep in mind my predictions have no basis in fact or logic. But I would like to predict that since For the Strength of Youth book has not been specific about tattoos since its reintroduction, that we will be allowed to tattoo our garment marks instead of wearing garments. How do you like that?
On our body. We tattoo
on our body.
All right, here we go.
Okay. All right.
A better way to remember our covenants than to have it tattooed. Just throwing that out there as a wild prediction.
We should start a betting market on this one, Melissa.
Okay,
I wonder what the line would be
do.
about the probability.
I've got another wild one for you.
Okay.
Since the incoming American presidential administration is going to create a Department of Government Efficiency, I think that the church will follow suit and become much more transparent in their spending and create a church government of Department of Government Efficiency
Department of Church Efficiency.
Yeah, something that has to do with being like really transparent about how much money we have and how it's being spent, and a bigger accounting of it.
You think that's going to happen? That's your prediction.
Is predictions? Is that what predictions is for, or is it for just some ideas?
And I think Mitt Romney will be called as the president of that
the
organization.
Department of Church Government. Yes, see, Kurt, you're getting me. You see me. Yes,
he's always been so transparent.
Yes,
that's who we want in charge of transparency.
Right? Yeah. All right. Any other predictions people want to jump on? Tiffany,
all right, I got a prediction. So I think that the Mormon-themed reality shows are really having a moment, and they are generating so much success that I think in 2025, we are going to see at least 2 more shows. And I'm going to predict that one of them will be a bachelor type show where and I know they've kind of done this, but not on a national level, where all of the contestants are members of the church or have a Mormon affiliation. And that will go into the whole dating thing, non-committal makeouts, all of that kind of stuff. And my next prediction for a reality show is I think that they will find some family that has all sorts of high drama, and we will have a Mormon-styled Kardashian type reality show.
Oh,
I like these predictions, Tiffany. I'm in on it.
Fun.
Yeah, I would pay money to watch those. There is actually a show called Provo's Most Eligible. It's on YouTube. Yes. Okay, Matt's nodding. He's heard of it. I'm not the only person who've heard of it. And that's kind of similar to The Bachelor. And there's a season 3 coming in 2025. So, you're kind of on track there.
Exactly.
Nice.
I think they'll get picked up like on a national, either a network or like Hulu's, Netflix, a larger platform other than just somebody's throwing it up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Very good. Daniel, any predictions?
Well, I was trying to think on my feet. I'm
going for the fences here. Give us something crazy.
Well, not really crazy. Maybe a bit more grim or hopeful for some. I don't know. But I think we're going to have a new president of the church next year potentially, and part of it is I think President Nelson has done such a big job, and I'm pretty sure he probably feels ready. And I think it's likely that it might happen in 2025. So we'll see how things evolve from there.
Would it be
I'm not
President Oaks?
wishing that on anyone, right? Like, but I think it's grounded in reality. He's 100 years old. But yeah, we'll see how a church will be under President Oaks, very likely.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, unless he also gets ill or something.
And anytime I'm, scanning headlines on a news site or whatever, and I see a picture of President Nelson, like my brain, is this it? Like, are they announcing it? But thankfully, he's still with us. So,
yeah, I would have given a prediction that that would be more crazy, which is that we would have seen potentially the first kind of emeritus apostle, kind of an apostle saying, "Thank you very much, but now I go emeritus. You can call someone else." I thought that something like that could have happened with Elder Holland, but he got better, and now he's out there traveling. So that didn't happen then. So I pulled that prediction, and I went with the more grim one about President Nelson. But yeah, we're very likely to have a church with a new president in the next 12 months.
I like grim predictions.
Awesome. Georgia, any predictions come to mind for you?
Oh, I don't know about predictions. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I love our Relief Society president, President Johnson, and I would love to see her conducting General Conference. And I see no reason why not. I see no reason why women cannot conduct meetings. The men can preside, fine. I'll give them that. But why can't women conduct meetings? So women conducting sacrament meetings, women conducting board councils. But my big prediction would be President Johnson conducting a session of General Conference.
Yeah. They're definitely relying more on the broader General Quorum of the 12 to conduct. So yeah, maybe they'll do that.
What about a stake Relief Society president conducting stake conference?
I mean, potentially that could happen as well. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. All right, I'll predict that we will get a clarifying message about the word of wisdom, as far as what is the word of wisdom in 2024, considering energy drinks and green teas and all the above. And maybe that will impact, how we live the word of wisdom, as far as like the specific restrictions or encouragements there. But, this is wishful thinking, but I can see a YSA general presidency, but I would love a Elders Quorum general presidency, or at least a Elders Quorum advisory council that is meeting regularly to talk about men's issues and mental health and focuses and visions and themes and things like that. And I think it would be a net positive for the church and our
Can
culture.
I add one in there? Can I
Any others?
Yeah, can I ask for an area Relief Society presidency? I would love that because there's an area presidency, but as far as I know, there's sort of no presidency that involves women at an area level. So I would love to see that.
Yeah,
that would be great. And I would add one as well. I know this will not happen, but that we may have a general authority called that brand new general authority that is not married. That would be a single person. So breaking that expectation that it would be a married person. We'll see.
Are we still with? Can you hear me? Sorry. You froze. All froze up for a minute. And he would immediately become the most eligible bachelor or bachelorette in the church.
And he would be on the new reality show. Yeah.
And then BYU TV will follow him around and make some good money.
Now, they have single people on the general boards of the Young Women's and the General Relief Society, right?
And very young, too.
Yeah.
So, well, any others that people want to go on the record for? All right, we do it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm afraid. I don't want to say anything else.
I know. You always predict someone's death, so I get uncomfortable about it. So hopefully I'm here next week or next year. All right. A little caveat that it was sort of it really doesn't matter. I'm the only one that cares. But if you want a fun game, what happens for the audience that doesn't know. So whoever's on assignment to record the episode, you guys record it, and then you let me know, hey, it's done, and then I go in and edit it and put the music on, and I make the image, right? The collage image that goes on on social media and on the YouTube thumbnail and those things. I have been hiding in probably 90% of. I've been hiding Elder Uchtdorf in every single one of them. So if you need a fun game with your family, you can go back through all of 2024's thumbnails, and you can see if you can find Elder Uchtdorf. Sometimes he's easier to find than others. Sometimes he's in the news, so it really makes it easy. But yeah, he's
You
in
left
most of
us
them.
Easter eggs and never
That's right.
told us?
I was waiting for this moment. So
Hey.
Are you going to
next
hide
year-
someone new in 2025?
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we'll come together as a co-host team and determine see if they can put it together after a few. So there might be
That's
just
funny.
Matt's face, every single one. So
Please no, please not.
I mean,
Not
in
that.
case those search algorithms are using like photos, maybe one of the daybells would be good to put in there.
That's true.
Awesome.
Well, Lori has a trial coming up in Arizona. We can revisit that this year. She's going to
boy.
represent herself. That just came out.
Oh.
Yeah, she was in court just this last week, and
Did her call not come through to your office, Tiffany, or what's the? I guess you're not licensed in Arizona, right? So
anyway, so we do have some more daybell coverage likely in 2025.
Love it. Very good. That would be an easy prediction. Tiffany, do you want to go on the record with your prediction for the daybell trial there?
I believe she will be convicted of conspiracy to murder her ex-husband.
All right.
My prediction is she'll win Defense Lawyer of the Year, Trial Litigator of the Year.
And they'll make a mini-series about his legal career. Awesome. Very good. Well, as people know, if they listen to the weekly episode, the international team has been so awesome, but they are bowing out, not for any... We thought we'd come up with some scandal or something, but we'll leave that in the minds of the listeners. But it really, the paycheck isn't keeping them here. That's for sure. So, but we appreciate the time that you've taken. We know just the coordinating and paying attention to news and things. So, from our heart to yours, thank you so much for being part of the TWIM team, and you're welcome back anytime. So.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Well, Danny's not here to receive this nice recognition, but yeah, it's been fantastic. We might come back here and then. Definitely not closing the door. It feels like the end of a cycle has been quite positive for all of us. So thank you, and we're quite excited to see what happens with TWIM next year.
Yeah, and you're not going to get rid of us so easily. I reckon we're gonna make an appearance in the future. We'll see.
Awesome. That's right. And I do want to put a call out. We're always looking to, get different diverse voices on here. We can't all hate Mitt Romney, so
Right.
But a call out, especially for international voices. We've really appreciated just that different perspective and really the stories that maybe we miss here in our country. And so if there are some international voices out there outside of the United States that want to step up and hopefully, you do have to speak English to some degree. That would be great because we haven't branched out quite yet. The funding there, unless somebody wants to fund a, Spanish or whatever.
Well, if you're up for like a special Spanish episode, I'm happy to come with someone one day, kind of as a spin-off, not as part of the main.
Absolutely.
Maybe, but yeah.
So, yeah. And then also I'd love to get some younger voices, maybe YSA, Matt and Melissa have an interview that I think by the time this publishes, it should be published with Sam Benson, who we'll maybe talk with him, see if he's interested. But it'd be good to have some, in their 20s or so, that YSAs, or even I guess if they're married, but just younger perspectives there. So if you're interested and you're listening out there, reach out to contact@thisweekinmormons.com and let's start the conversation. So I still remember when Melissa interviewed me, and I thought, who is this lady? And she thinks that her and her brother would, and look, they're an institution of This Week in Mormons. I mean, I can't fire them even if I wanted to. They're that good.
It's true.
So
It's true.
they've introduced things like little deal, no deal, big deal, no little deal, no deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even on in a recent episode with Jeff, he used it. So you're molding the brand of This Week in Mormons. So we appreciate it. We love all you guys and all that you give, and we'd love to have you back for another year, but we get it. Life happens. So, all right. Anything else anybody? There's two other things I want to mention here, but anything we want to mention there that you want to add before we wrap up?
No.
You did it.
It's been a great
Awesome.
year.
And Daniel even hung with us. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I did. I
That's
survived.
good. Appreciate it. We definitely want to encourage everybody. Well, let me go to this first. Anybody want to plug something? Obviously, if people are listening to this and are not familiar with this, this week in leadership, Leading Saints. That is my day job podcast. That we talk all things culture. So we hope that you're tuning in there. We could definitely use more subscribers on YouTube, which are This Week in Mormons. What do you call it? Views on YouTube is up 35% in 2024. So we're
Nice.
definitely gathering an audience there. But yeah, check us out at Leading Saints wherever you're listening to this. And I want to put I love Matt's real Mormonism. Is that what we call it?
Yeah,
Matt?
real Mormon. We're leaning in on the use of the word Mormon.
That's right. And I've listened to it, especially through the political season. If you want more content of Matt's friends dogpiling on him about his opinions, and Matt, you're such a good sport. You just lean in and give it right back to him, and so it's fun. I think you guys do a great job. You guys have all guest hosted on This Week of Mormons, and but definitely check that one out too. Anybody else want to plug something?
I have a plug. This next year, hopefully before I turn 40, middle of next year, I will get our new album with Gran Capitals, with my band, with Daniel Ferreira, with the other host, and with my brother in Chile. And it's a Mormon adjacent band that I think about it. Most of us are members of the church. 15 songs. We still don't know if it's going to be a double album of kind of that in half or just a long LP with 15 songs. So I'm literally going next month to Chile to record my parts. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, if you like the intro from This Week in Mormons.
Yeah, we've used it all 2024. We sort of announced it last year that we were going to use it, and that is Daniel's band. And if you want to send me another clip, or if you want to mix it up, or I'm always happy to swap it out.
I have versions of it, so maybe we can have a few versions to have different moods depending on the episode. So
that's right.
We're looking forward to featuring you on our segment "Famous Mormons" at some point in the future.
that ship sailed 10 years ago. But just look up Gran Capitals in Spotify. I can't spell in English. Sorry, I'll put it on the show notes. But
we'll link to it. That's awesome. Very good. Any other plugs or promotions? We did it. Any favorite things this week, Tiffany, that you want to share?
Nothing on the spot. I'm just going to say nothing that comes to mind because I have not had a moment this week to even enjoy anything because it's been so busy.
Nice.
It's been a demanding week at work. So
awesome.
Sorry, I don't have anything right off the top of my head other than I will say this new show on Bravo that Ariane and I are going to talk about when we record next time. It's called Selling Salt Lake. I am quite enamored with it. Everybody on there has some connection to Mormonism. Some of them are active. Some of them are formally active. Some of them consider themselves to be culturally Mormon. And I have thoroughly been enjoying that new show on Bravo.
Awesome. And I'll put the link in the show notes for the form as far as ranking the top stories. If anybody wants to add their opinion, and we'll see which one wins out by the time the clock turns 2025. So that'd be great. And Patreon out there, listen, we could really use your help because we've got big plans for This Week in Mormons. And we do try and make it valuable, giving a couple dollars to This Week in Mormons. And it really does help with the overhead and things like that. So be sure to check us out and become a patron there. And you'll get early episodes, you'll get bonus content, and I don't know. We need to think of something else.
Patreon subscribers were able to vote on the top stories before anybody else could. So
that's right.
And there's already content there that hasn't dropped for the regular listeners. The interview we did with Sam Benson's already on Patreon, but it's not out there for everyone else yet.
That's right. So you can get a jump on that content. So with that said, Melissa, you want to you started this episode. You want to finish us? With all the things?
Yeah. Hey, listener, thanks so much for listening. Honestly, we've really appreciated your support this entire year. It's been fun getting your feedback. If you do want to give more feedback, please get a hold of us at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. And let's look forward to 2025.